Sometimes it feels like everywhere you turn, there's this message, this pressure to achieve success early in life. Like there's some kind of deadline
Oh, absolutely.
for making your mark on the world.
Yeah, it's like a cultural obsession almost,
Exactly.
with early success.
But is it really true? I mean, is that really the only way to have a fulfilling life? So to really get to the bottom of this, we're going deep on late bloomers. It's a book by Rich Karlgaard. You might know him. He's the publisher of Forbes magazine.
So yeah, someone who's thought a lot about success and what makes people successful.
And he really challenges this idea that, you have to have it all figured out and have all these accomplishments by a certain age.
Right. He doesn't think it's a race at all.
Right. And he actually starts the book with a really fascinating story. Have you heard of Riley Weston?
I don't think so. No.
So she was this screenwriter in Hollywood, and she got this huge contract with Disney. I think she was like 18 or 19.
Yeah. Okay.
And everyone's hailing her as this this young genius, right? But here's the thing. She had actually faked her age.
Oh wow.
She was actually in her 30s.
That's amazing.
And when they asked her why she did it, she said, if people knew I was in my 30s, they wouldn't have even given me a chance.
It's that just shows you how strong the bias is, right?
Mhm.
Even in Hollywood, an industry that's supposed to be about creativity and original ideas.
Right. I mean, if even Hollywood is obsessed with youth,
Yeah.
then where did this whole thing come from for the rest of us?
Right.
Karlgaard, he actually points to three kind of major forces that he thinks have fueled this obsession, and I think they're pretty spot on. He
Right.
talks about the education industry, IQ testing and standardized assessments, and then just the media in general.
Okay. Yeah. Those are big ones for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, let's maybe take them one by one. Let's start with the education industry. It just seems like there's this pressure on parents, right, to get their kids into the best preschools, the right extracurriculars. It's like this arms race that starts, as soon as they're born.
Right. Like if your kid isn't like excelling by age 5, then they're already behind.
Right. It's crazy.
It's wild.
But why is that? Is it just parents wanting the best for their kids, or is there something else at play here?
Yeah. Karlgaard thinks that there's this financial incentive, right?
Yeah.
The education industry kind of it profits off this fear that parents have. My kid needs constant enrichment, constant acceleration.
Right. So it's not just well-meaning parents. It's like a whole system that's
Yeah.
that's kind of built around this anxiety.
Exactly.
And this kind of feeds into the second force too, right? This whole emphasis on IQ testing and standardized assessments, which those are whole debates in and of themselves, but I mean, you can't deny they have a huge impact on how we perceive intelligence and potential.
Yeah, and it's like, you take these tests and they're saying that, your ability is fixed, that
Right.
you basically have this set amount of potential from a really young age,
Yeah.
and that we're all competing against each other from day one.
Right, and that's a pretty fixed mindset, right? And what if our potential is way more fluid and dynamic than these tests
Yeah.
suggest? What if it's not so black and white?
Totally. And that's something that Karlgaard really, digs into, and
Yeah.
and he finds a lot of evidence in neuroscience that kind of backs up this idea.
I'm really curious to hear more about that, but before we get there, let's talk about this third force, the media. I mean,
Yeah.
just think about it. We're constantly seeing these stories, right? About young entrepreneurs, tech prodigies, the child geniuses.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's every.
Every magazine, every
Yeah.
website.
But does that actually, like, does it seep in? Does it change how we view our own potential?
I think it has to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Karlgaard thinks so too. He's saying that it creates this sense of urgency, this pressure to achieve, to make something of yourself really early, even if it means sacrificing, experimenting and exploring different things, or even just enjoying the journey.
It's like we're being conditioned to think that if we haven't made it by a certain age, then we're somehow
Yeah.
failing.
Yeah, like we're already past our prime or something.
Right. But what if that's all just it's made up, right? What if that's a narrative that we're being fed, but it doesn't actually reflect
Right.
reality?
Right. And that's the big idea that Karlgaard is trying to push back on in his book. He doesn't think this obsession with early success is a good thing. In fact, he thinks it might actually be kind of harmful because it ignores the fact that, our abilities change over time and that the different skills actually peak at different stages of life.
So what does that mean for those of us who, haven't achieved some major, milestone by age 30 or 40 or even 50? Are we just like out of luck?
No, not at all. Actually, Karlgaard says that some of the most valuable skills and abilities actually peak later in life. And this is where the neuroscience gets really interesting.
Tell me more about that. I definitely want to dig into that.
So, there's all this research that shows, our brains are way more adaptable and dynamic than we used to think.
So it's not just all downhill after our 20s.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Actually, different cognitive abilities peak at different ages.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, like fast processing speed and just like remembering things.
Oh, yeah.
That usually peaks in the late teens and early 20s.
Makes sense. Like you know those late night study sessions in college where you're just like cramming information. Your brain is like in overdrive.
Right. But then as we get a little older, mid 20s to mid 30s,
Yeah.
short-term memory and the ability to like learn new things really quickly.
Okay.
That really kind of comes to the forefront.
It's almost like our brains are kind of adapting to the demands of that phase of life, building a career, figuring out relationships, maybe starting a family. It's like a time of intense learning and growth.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, from our mid 40s to mid 50s,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence and this thing called social reasoning,
Okay.
that becomes really important.
So we're not just getting older, we're getting wiser.
Right.
We're better at understanding our own emotions, reading other people.
Right, exactly.
And just being more empathetic, basically.
Yeah, and then even later, as we move into our 60s and beyond, we see this peak in language mastery and this thing called crystallized intelligence.
Crystallized intelligence. That sounds...
It's kind of a mouthful, but it's basically it's the ability to use all the knowledge and experience you've accumulated to solve problems, to make judgments, to really connect the dots.
It's like the wisdom that comes from just living life and seeing a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give an example of how that might actually play out in real life? Like what would that look?
Sure. So imagine like a seasoned doctor who can, quickly diagnose a really complicated illness just because they've, seen so many patterns over the years, and they can connect, seemingly random symptoms, that's crystallized intelligence.
Okay, that's a great example.
At work.
So it's not that, our brains just like decline as we get older.
Right.
It's that they shift and evolve.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's really cool about that is that it has this huge implication for how we think about success.
Oh, okay.
If our abilities are constantly evolving, then so is our potential for success.
I love that. That's so empowering, It's like instead of feeling pressure to achieve everything by a certain age, we can actually kind of embrace the fact that our strengths are always changing and kind of adapt our goals accordingly.
It's about recognizing that the journey isn't linear,
Right.
There's going to be twists and turns. And sometimes those detours actually lead you to where you're supposed to be.
I love that. This is giving me so much hope. It's like things that we might consider failures or setbacks, earlier in life, could actually be setting us up for something even greater later on.
Exactly. And that actually leads us to the strategies that Karlgaard outlines for really thriving as a late bloomer.
Okay.
And he calls them strategic retreats, embracing self-doubt.
Okay.
And creating a new comfort zone.
These sound interesting. Let's maybe start with strategic retreats. What does that even mean?
So strategic retreats are, it's about recognizing when a path you're on, it's just not working. And having the courage to kind of pivot to something else that's more aligned with your strengths and your interests.
So it's not about giving up. It's about
not at all.
Kind of strategically changing direction.
Exactly.
So like, would that be something like, I don't know, changing careers in your 40s after, working in a different field for years?
Yeah. And all that experience you have, combined with, that emotional intelligence and social reasoning
Mhm.
that's peaking at that age.
Right.
That can be so valuable in a new context.
It's like you're not starting from scratch. You're kind of
Well, if it's
leveraging those skills and that knowledge that you've built up
exactly, yeah.
and applying it in a new way.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to careers either.
Yeah.
Strategic retreats can be for, relationships, creative pursuits, really.
Anything.
Yeah, anything where you might be feeling a little stuck or unfulfilled.
So it's about really being honest with yourself about what's working and what's not.
Right.
And having that courage to make a change, even if it means,
Totally.
stepping outside that comfort zone.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into the next strategy, which is embracing self-doubt.
Embracing self-doubt, that sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Aren't we supposed to like be confident and believe in ourselves?
Right. Well, self-doubt is usually seen as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Something to avoid.
Right.
But Karlgaard actually thinks that it can be a really valuable tool for growth.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's about kind of reframing self-doubt, as a sign that maybe something needs to change, a prompt to reevaluate your goals or your strategies.
So instead of letting self-doubt like paralyze you,
Right.
you can actually use it to kind of push you forward
Every day.
and to grow and improve.
It's about acknowledging those doubts,
Yeah.
examining them and then using them to make, better decisions.
So it's like turning that inner critic into an inner advisor.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
And then lastly we have creating a new comfort zone,
Right.
which also sounds kind of like a paradox, right? I mean, isn't the point of a comfort zone to
To stay comfortable.
just stay comfortable? So
Right.
how do you create a new one?
Well, so traditionally, yeah, that's the idea. But Karlgaard is suggesting that, as we grow and evolve,
Yeah.
our comfort zones actually need
Yep.
to expand too.
Okay.
It's about kind of pushing ourselves to try new things,
Yeah. Yeah.
take on new challenges, and just kind of step outside the familiar.
So it's not about eliminating the comfort zone entirely. It's about making it more
Right.
expansive and
Exactly.
comfortable.
Yeah, it's about creating that space where you feel challenged,
Yeah.
but not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
A place where you can keep learning and keep growing.
So these three strategies, strategic retreats, embracing self-doubt, creating a new comfort zone, they're all about kind of giving ourselves permission to embrace change, to adapt to our evolving strengths, and to create a life that really truly aligns with who we are,
Right.
and what we want to achieve.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that our potential isn't fixed. It's always unfolding. And, yeah, like we can kind of rewrite the rules of success in a way.
Right, and make it our own.
Yes,
not
yeah.
just what society is telling us.
Yeah, and celebrate, the things that come with experience and wisdom.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like instead of seeing aging as like a decline, we can see it as this continual process of growth and evolution,
Exactly.
which is really cool.
And it's not just about like individual change.
Right.
This has the potential to really like change society as a whole.
That's what I think is so cool about Karlgaard's book.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not just a self-help book.
No.
It's really like a call to action.
He's really asking us to kind of reimagine a world where late bloomers are not just tolerated, but like truly valued.
Right, where our education systems, our workplaces, even our cultural narratives are designed in a way that actually embraces the idea that success can happen
Yeah.
on a bunch of different timelines.
Right. Like what if instead of, pushing everyone toward the same like narrow definition of achievement, we created spaces that allow people to take different paths and that celebrate a wider range of talents and contributions,
That is such a good question. Like what would that world look like? I'd love to hear like what you think about that.
Yeah, so I think for one thing it would mean kind of rethinking how we measure success in education,
Mm.
So instead of just focusing on, standardized tests and early achievement, what if we had more, project-based learning and mentorship programs and just ways for kids to explore their passions and really develop their their unique skills at their own pace.
I love that. It's about cultivating that growth mindset,
Yeah.
where learning is a lifelong journey, not just like this race to the finish line.
Right, exactly. And in the workplace too,
Yeah.
we could move away from this like rigid age-based hierarchy and think about, more opportunities for people to move into different roles or industries later in their careers,
Yeah.
that like maybe offer retraining programs or flexible work arrangements and just ways for people with more experience to share their knowledge and skills with younger generations.
Right. It's like recognizing that that experience actually has value.
Right.
It's not something to be discounted or dismissed. The things you learn over a lifetime, those are really valuable assets. And and,
Absolutely.
and then even on like a broader cultural level, I
Yeah.
think I think we need to hear more stories about late bloomers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to show that there are so many different paths
Right.
that people take to find their purpose and to make a difference.
Yeah, and that would kind of challenge this myth of the overnight success,
Right.
and hopefully create a more inclusive and supportive environment for everyone to pursue their dreams, no matter what their age is.
I love that vision. It's like creating a world where everyone has the chance to bloom, even
Yeah.
if it takes a little longer for some of us to find our sunlight.
Yeah, and Karlgaard's book is just such a good reminder that our potential isn't tied to our age, that our strengths change over time and it's never too late to find your passion and make a real impact.
I love that message. So if you're listening and you've ever felt that pressure to achieve everything by a certain age, or you've ever wondered if it's too late to try something new, I highly recommend checking out Late Bloomers by Rich Karlgaard. It's seriously a really insightful and inspiring read.
Totally agree with that.
And keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think about all this on social media. Use the hashtag Late Bloomer Revolution.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of late bloomers. And just remember, your journey is unique, your timeline is your own, and it's never too late to blossom.